what it really takes to become someone the world cannot ignore. Every era creates two kinds of people. There are those who wait for permission to become important, and there are those who decide that their life is worth more than chance will ever give them. The second group is small, but they shape the world. Machiavelli wrote for them. He wrote for the person who understands that value is not something granted, it is something carved out through courage, perception, and an honest understanding of how people behave when resources or status are on the line. In a world that rewards appearance, confidence, and timing, many people lose years waiting for talent alone to carry them upward. Machiavelli saw through that fantasy. He insisted that talent matters, but strategy matters more. You cannot become indispensable if you do not understand the emotional landscape of the people around you. You cannot rise if you refuse to see how power clusters and shifts. The person who becomes dangerously valuable studies both reality and human nature. They learn to stay calm when others panic. They speak when others whisper. They act when others hesitate. This video looks at what Machiavelli can teach modern ambition. The goal is not cruelty. The goal is clarity. The world is competitive by design, and pretending otherwise leaves you blind. Becoming dangerously valuable means becoming someone who understands incentives, sees opportunity early, and protects their position with discipline. It means building a life that no one can easily undermine because it is too grounded, too strategic, and too focused to collapse. And while the phrase sounds fierce, this path is ultimately about self-control and self-respect. Machiavelli's insights are brutal only to illusions, not to people. 1. Machiavelli's real purpose: survival, not villainy. Many people read The Prince and walk away convinced that Machiavelli admired ruthless leaders. The truth is more subtle. He was a civil servant who lived through political chaos, exile, betrayal, and shifting governments. He watched the powerful fall overnight because they trusted the wrong person or misread a threat. His goal was not to teach corruption. His goal was to teach survival in a world where the unprepared suffered first. Machiavelli understood that leaders fall for avoidable reasons. They fail to adapt. They ignore warnings. They rely too heavily on others. They confuse popularity with stability. When he advised rulers to appear strong, decisive, or firm, he was not telling them to be cruel. He was telling them to avoid becoming weak enough for enemies to gain leverage. The modern reader can take the same message. Strength is not aggression. Strength is preparation. When you are not prepared, you become dependent, and dependence invites manipulation. Another key point is that Machiavelli drew a sharp line between private morality and political effectiveness. He knew that people judge leaders by results more than intentions. A leader who tries to please everyone often pleases no one. A professional who tries to avoid every risk usually ends up replaceable. Machiavelli's lesson is simple: the world respects impact. The person who becomes dangerously valuable learns to prioritize long-term outcomes over short-term approval. They build a foundation others come to rely on, not because they intimidate, but because they deliver. 2. The value of perception: controlling how others see you. Machiavelli believed that perception guides power more reliably than raw force. People respond to the image you project before they ever understand your full abilities. This is why he advised leaders to appear confident, stable, and in command of their environment. To become dangerously valuable, you must learn to shape how others see you with the same precision that an artist shapes a portrait. The first element of perception is predictability. People trust those who present a consistent pattern of behavior. This does not mean being rigid. It means showing that your reactions follow logic, not impulse. In professional settings, predictability builds respect. It signals that you have discipline, that you think clearly under stress, and that you can be relied on when decisions matter. When others see you as stable, You become the anchor in chaotic rooms. Anchors cannot be ignored. The second element is presence. Machiavelli wrote that leaders must stand out. Blending into the background may feel safe, but it dampens your influence. Presence is not loudness, it is intentionality. When you speak, you do so with purpose. When you commit to something, you follow through. When you enter a room, you carry yourself with calm awareness. People notice this. They respond to it instinctively. The person who carries presence becomes someone others defer to even without authority, because they radiate the confidence that others wish they had. The third element is boundaries. Machiavelli warned against showing too much vulnerability to the wrong audience. Modern life is no different. You cannot build value if you give every part of yourself to every person who asks for it. Boundaries protect your energy, your time, and your focus. When people see that you guard your attention, they respect it. When they see that you do not tolerate disrespect or manipulation, they think twice before testing you. Boundaries create scarcity, and scarcity creates value. 3. Strategic virtue. Why morality must serve results, not image. Many people misunderstand Machiavelli because they read his advice through a modern moral lens. He never rejected virtue. He rejected performative virtue. He argued that a leader who wants to do genuine good must stay in power long enough to carry out that good. There is no value in being honorable if your lack of strategy removes you from the game. For modern readers, this becomes a powerful lesson. If you want to be useful in your work or community, you must combine your moral intentions with intelligent planning. The first part of strategic virtue is understanding timing. Good actions executed at the wrong moment create more harm than help. A mentor who tells the truth before a student is ready will break them instead of guiding them. A leader who pushes a bold idea before the team trusts them will face sabotage. Machiavelli saw timing as the heartbeat of influence. The person who becomes dangerously valuable knows when to reveal strength, when to reveal patience, and when to hold still. Their goodness is not naive, it is effective. The second part is discernment. Not everyone deserves access to your best qualities. Kindness without boundaries becomes exploitation. Transparency without discretion becomes vulnerability. Loyalty without evaluation becomes a trap. Machiavelli warned that the world has a mix of honorable and dishonorable actors, and that treating both groups the same leads to disaster. Modern ambition requires the same clarity. You must reserve your generosity for people who have earned it. You must protect your principles from those who weaponize them. This is not coldness, it is maturity. The third part is responsibility. Strategic virtue means being accountable for your long-term impact, not just your short-term appearance. Anyone can look ethical for a moment. True virtue shows itself in the consistency of your decisions over years. Machiavelli believed that leaders carry the weight of consequences, and that the honest leader faces those consequences without excuses. In your own life, this translates into reliability. You do not blame others when things fall apart. You learn, adjust, and return stronger. People trust someone who stands firm in responsibility, and that trust becomes one of the strongest forms of value. 4. The power of controlled fear. Why respect beats niceness. One of Machiavelli's most quoted ideas is that it is safer to be feared than loved. In modern language, this means something far more practical. It means that being respected is more reliable than being liked. Niceness is fragile. Respect is durable. People like you when you make them comfortable. They respect you when they recognize your strength and fairness. Becoming dangerously valuable does not require intimidation. It requires clarity and firmness. that signal you cannot be pushed. The first aspect of controlled fear is consistency in consequences. Machiavelli saw that leaders who made empty threats collapsed quickly. The same applies in everyday life. When you tell someone you will enforce a boundary, you must follow through. When you commit to a project, you must deliver. People fear disappointing someone who holds themselves to high standards, not because you punish them, but because they understand your seriousness. They know that you value your own word, which means they must value it too. The second aspect is self-protection. Controlled fear means you refuse to tolerate patterns that weaken your focus or drain your energy. You remove yourself from relationships that erode your confidence. You step away from environments that dull your ambition. Machiavelli believed that a leader must preserve their own stability before they can lead others. Today, this translates into emotional discipline. People respect someone who knows when to walk away, when to stand firm, and when to protect their inner world. The third aspect is fairness. Machiavelli argued that cruelty without reason destroys trust, but firmness with purpose builds order. When you are fair, people recognize that your standards are not personal attacks. They are part of how you operate. This creates a sense of controlled fear that is rooted in integrity, not aggression. Colleagues, friends, and mentors respond to this balance. They may not always agree with you, but they know exactly where you stand. That clarity is rare, and rare qualities have high value. 5. Adaptability, becoming fluid in a rigid world. One of Machiavelli's strongest insights is that fortune favors those who adapt faster than their environment changes. He compared the world to a river that shifts constantly. Those who rigidly cling to one style of action eventually drown. Those who remain flexible stay ahead of the current. The person who becomes dangerously valuable treats adaptability as a core skill, not a temporary reaction. The first part of adaptability is accurate self-assessment. Machiavelli believed that leaders fall when they misunderstand their own strengths. A person who is naturally careful but tries to imitate the bold becomes reckless. A person who is naturally aggressive but pretends to be cautious becomes hesitant. The key is to understand your natural tendencies and match them to the challenges you face. This requires honesty and humility. You observe your patterns, study your weaknesses, and adjust your behavior with intention. The second part is environmental awareness. Machiavelli wrote during a time of political instability, and he understood that circumstances shift without warning. Modern life mirrors this in countless ways. Economies change, industries evolve, social dynamics shift, and opportunities appear suddenly. If you cling to outdated methods, you become obsolete. Adaptability means paying attention. It means noticing the small signs of change before they become crises. It means updating your skills, adjusting your strategy, and staying light on your feet. The third part is emotional flexibility. People often fail to adapt because they are trapped in old identities. They cling to what they used to be instead of who they need to become. Machiavelli would argue that identity is not meant to be fixed. It is meant to serve your goals. Emotional flexibility allows you to reinvent yourself without shame. You can shift from student to leader, from beginner to expert, from overlooked to formidable. People notice this evolution. They recognize the strength it takes to grow beyond your old limits, and that recognition becomes part of your value. 6. The skill of reading people, understanding motives before they surface. Machiavelli believed that the strongest leaders were not the most forceful, but the most observant. They could read character with precision and detect motives before those motives became actions. To become dangerously valuable, you must sharpen your ability to understand people not by what they claim, but by what they consistently do. This is not cynicism, it is awareness grounded in patterns. The first part of reading people is studying incentives. Everyone operates based on what they want to gain or avoid. When you understand what drives someone, their choices stop being surprising. This takes patience. You watch how people react to pressure, how they behave when no reward is offered, and how they treat those who cannot help them. Machiavelli saw these behaviors as the clearest windows into a person's nature. In your own life, the ability to identify motives allows you to make smarter alliances and avoid subtle traps. The second part is emotional neutrality. When you study people through your own biases, you misread them. Machiavelli taught that a leader must detach enough to see clearly. Emotional neutrality does not mean coldness. It means refusing to let hope or fear distort your interpretation. You measure actions instead of relying on guesses. This helps you identify genuine allies, hidden threats, and unspoken opportunities. People who cannot control their emotional reactions often misread others and fall into preventable mistakes. The third part is communication awareness. Most people reveal themselves through tone, posture, timing, and hesitation, long before they speak their full truth. Machiavelli understood that power is often negotiated through subtle signals, not loud declarations. When you learn to read these signals, you gain the ability to steer conversations, predict outcomes, and position yourself advantageously. This skill makes you valuable because it allows you to navigate conflict and collaboration with uncommon precision. 7. The discipline of silence. Why power often grows in the things you do not say. Machiavelli emphasized that leaders often destroy themselves through unnecessary speech. They reveal too much, commit too early, or expose their vulnerabilities in hopes of earning trust. Silence, used wisely, is not avoidance. It is strength. It gives you room to think, observe, and control the pace of interaction. Becoming dangerously valuable requires mastery of what you choose not to reveal. The first dimension of strategic silence is protection. When you speak impulsively, you give others insight into your fears, ambitions, and weaknesses. People can weaponize that information. Silence guards your inner world. It creates a barrier that forces others to judge you by your actions, rather than your insecurities. Machiavelli saw this as essential to survival. The modern world operates the same way. If everyone knows your pressure points, you lose leverage before you ever step into real challenges. The second dimension is influence. People listen more carefully to those who do not speak constantly. Silence creates anticipation. It signals confidence. When you choose your words with intention, the impact of each sentence increases. This gives you natural authority even without formal power. Colleagues, collaborators, and competitors will pay closer attention because they sense that you do not waste language. That discipline elevates your reputation. The third dimension is control. Silence disrupts the pace of people who try to manipulate or rush you. When someone pressures you into a quick decision, silence interrupts their strategy. When someone seeks emotional reactions, silence denies them satisfaction. Machiavelli understood that pacing is a form of dominance. You do not let others set the rhythm of your mind. You control the tempo, which means you control the interaction. People who master this subtle form of power often appear unshakable. 8. The calculated use of allies, building networks without becoming dependent. Machiavelli warned that allies are both essential and dangerous. A wise leader needs support, yet dependence on others creates vulnerability. To become dangerously valuable, you must build alliances strategically, using them as sources of strength without allowing them to become chains that restrict your independence. The first part of strategic alliance building is selective trust. Not everyone deserves a seat close to you. Machiavelli encouraged leaders to reward loyalty but to test it over time. Modern life mirrors this. You observe how people behave when you succeed, when you fail, and when you have nothing to offer. This long view helps you identify allies who stand with you because they believe in your purpose, not because they see temporary benefit. These allies strengthen your foundation. The second part is mutual benefit. Machiavelli believed that alliances survive when both sides gain something meaningful. One-sided relationships collapse quickly or turn resentful. To build a strong network, you create value for others in ways that align with your strengths. You share knowledge, open doors, and strengthen their goals without sacrificing your own. This creates stable bonds based on realistic expectations rather than emotional dependency. The third part is independence. A Machiavellian thinker uses allies but never surrenders autonomy. You collaborate, but you keep your internal compass intact. You learn from others, but you do not let them replace your judgment. You appreciate assistance, but you remain capable on your own. This balance makes you someone people want to support because they respect your self-reliance. It also prevents you from becoming vulnerable to betrayals or shifts in loyalty. Independence is the core of long-term value. 9. Mastery of risk, knowing when to strike and when to stand still. Machiavelli believed that fortune bends to those who can manage risk with intelligence instead of fear. He watched leaders fail not because they lacked talent, but because they either acted too soon or waited too long. To become dangerously valuable, you must learn to calculate risk with clarity. You neither hide from it nor chase it blindly. You use it as a tool for growth. The first part of risk mastery is preparation. Many people take risks from desperation rather than strategy. Machiavelli warned that impulsive action destroys more leaders than hesitation ever could. Preparation builds confidence. When you gather information, strengthen your skills, and understand the terrain, the risks you take become controlled steps rather than leaps into the unknown. This difference separates the reckless from the formidable. The second part is timing. Risk pays off only when the moment supports it. Machiavelli admired leaders who could sense when opportunity was ripe. Modern ambition requires the same sensitivity. Sometimes the smartest move is waiting, while others rush ahead. Sometimes the strongest move is stepping forward, while others hesitate. The ability to read the environment allows you to strike precisely when your impact will be greatest and your vulnerability lowest. The third part is resilience. Risk carries losses, even when you choose wisely. Machiavelli believed that setbacks are unavoidable, and that the strongest people absorb them without losing direction. Resilience increases your value because it shows that you can endure pressure without breaking. People trust those who remain centered when circumstances turn difficult. That trust becomes a form of long-term influence. 10. The identity of a leader, becoming the person others lean toward. For Machiavelli, leadership was not a position, it was a way of being. A leader is someone others lean toward in uncertainty, someone who makes decisions with clarity, and someone who shapes direction instead of waiting for it. To become dangerously valuable, you must develop a leadership identity even before you hold formal authority. The first part of leadership identity is decisiveness. Machiavelli believed that hesitation weakens trust. People prefer a leader who chooses a clear path and adjusts later over someone who waits for perfect certainty. You build value when you show that you can commit. Decisive people move projects forward, break stagnation, and create momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful forms of influence. The second part is emotional steadiness. Machiavelli warned that leaders who react too easily to flattery or criticism lose control. Emotional steadiness allows you to absorb feedback without collapsing and withstand pressure without lashing out. This steadiness calms the people around you. It creates a sense of direction. Even in chaotic environments, people naturally rely on those who maintain composure when others fall apart. The third part is responsibility for others. Machiavelli understood that leadership requires loyalty to your people, not blind loyalty, but commitment to their well-being and their growth. When people trust that you care about the collective outcome, they follow you more willingly. This creates influence that cannot be bought or forced. It grows from respect and earned credibility. Conclusion: the modern power of becoming dangerously valuable. Machiavelli never asked anyone to be ruthless for the sake of cruelty. He asked people to understand reality so they could rise within it. Becoming dangerously valuable means becoming someone whose presence, skills, judgment, and discipline make them impossible to overlook or undermine. You are not dangerous because you harm others. You are dangerous because you are prepared, aware, adaptable, and steady in a world that favors people who can navigate complexity. You gain this value through clarity. You read people accurately, protect your boundaries, build alliances with thought, and control the timing of your moves. You speak with intention. You act with confidence. You move with purpose. These qualities create an aura of strength that others feel instinctively. They sense that you are not easily shaken, not easily fooled, and not easily replaced. Most importantly, becoming dangerously valuable is not about domination. It is about self-respect. You rise because you refuse to live passively. You sharpen your mind, shape your identity, and choose your direction with intention. Machiavelli would argue that this is the most moral path available. A strong person stabilizes their world. A thoughtful strategist creates opportunities. A disciplined individual becomes an anchor for others. In the end, the ruthless art of becoming valuable is not about cruelty. It is about becoming the kind of person who leads without permission and thrives without apology.